We talk about personality all the time, right? We use it to describe ourselves, our friends, even our favorite characters in a movie. But have you ever stopped to think about where all these labels, the ones we use every day, actually come from?
I mean, think about it. How many times have you called yourself, or maybe that super ambitious coworker, a type A personality? It's just a phrase we all know and use.
And we all have a picture in our heads of what that means. You've got the driven, super competitive, high energy type A on one side, and on the other, you have the chill, relaxed, easygoing type B. It's a pretty stark contrast.
Or hey, what about this one? This has got to be the biggest personality question of all. Which one are you?
Yeah, it's that classic divide. The introvert who recharges their batteries with some quiet time, maybe with a good book, and then the extrovert who gets their energy from being in the mix, surrounded by people. So yeah, these labels are everywhere. They're just part of how we talk. But here's the thing. Where do these ideas even come from? Well, the real story is way more surprising and honestly a lot older than you'd probably guess. To find the beginning, we have to go way back. I'm talking over 2,000 years ago, to ancient Greece. A physician named Hippocrates came up with one of the very first systems for classifying personality, based on 4 basic temperaments. First up, you've got the sanguine type. These are the social butterflies of the group. Cheerful, optimistic, always looking for a good time. They're basically the life of the party. Then there's the phlegmatic type. These are your calm, quiet, super peaceful, and just generally easygoing folks. The ones who never seem to get ruffled. Next, we have the melancholic temperament. These are the deep thinkers. They're often very analytical, a bit reserved, really thoughtful. And while they can lean towards sadness, they're also often incredibly creative people. And finally, there's the choleric type. Just think of a natural-born leader. They're ambitious, decisive, assertive, but they can also have a short fuse, a bit irritable and fiery. So, for literally centuries, those 4 temperaments were the main way people thought about personality. But then, in the early 20th century, things took a really weird turn. A new idea popped up. What if your personality was directly connected to your body shape? Now, this idea has been pretty much debunked, but it was a huge and frankly fascinating chapter in this story. And the really wild part is that you had different researchers, like this guy Kretcher and another named Sheldon, who came up with almost the exact same categories. Both of them had a type for thin and tall people, one for muscular folks and one for people with a more rounded build. For example, take the lean body type. Kretcher called it leptosomatic, while Sheldon called it ectomorphic. See? Different names, but pretty much the exact same idea. A thin frame was supposed to be linked to a more reserved personality. And you see the exact same thing with the muscular build. Kretcher's athletic type is basically the same as Sheldon's mesomorph. Both theories claimed this body type went along with being more assertive and energetic. Okay, so this whole body type thing, it didn't stick around forever. Psychology started to shift its focus away from our physical bodies and towards something deeper. Our behaviors, our traits, and the world inside our heads. And a huge figure in that shift was Carl Jung. And boom, this is where we get our modern idea of introverts and extroverts. Jung's idea was that extroverts are focused on the world around them. They're social and friendly, like politicians or social workers. Introverts, on the other hand, are more focused on their own internal world of thoughts and feelings. That makes them more reserved, like your classic philosophers, scientists, or writers. Which brings us all the way back to type A and type B. And here's a fun fact. This theory didn't come from psychology at all. It actually came from 2 cardiologists in the 1950s who were studying the risk of heart disease. They defined type A as being hard-driving and competitive, and type B as being easygoing and non-competitive. But then, Sigmund Freud came along and just threw a massive wrench in everything. He proposed a really radical idea. What if our personality isn't just about the stuff we can see? What if the real drivers of who we are hidden deep down in a part of our mind we can't even access? Freud imagined our mind as this constant raging battle between 3 different forces. You've got the id, which is all our primal, raw instinct. Then there's the superego, which is like our moral compass. And caught in the middle is the ego, which has to play referee between the 2 in the real world. A really simple way to think about it is like this. The id is the little voice that screams, I want. The superego is the stern voice that says, I should. And the poor ego is the one trying to make a decision, saying, okay, I will. And this all leads to Freud's most famous idea,
The one you've probably heard of, the iceberg. He said our personality is just like one. The tiny little tip that you can see above the water, that's your conscious mind, where your ego lives. But the massive, invisible part underneath is the unconscious, where the powerful forces of the id and the superego are secretly running the show.
So, after this whole trip through history, from ancient Greek physicians and wacky body type theories all the way to Freud's hidden mind, you have to step back and ask, what's the point of all these labels anyway? And really, that's the big question, isn't it? Are these personality types a useful map? Something that helps us navigate who we are and understand other people better? Or do they just end up putting us in a box, limiting